You know that absolutely lethal look your mom gives you? The one that tells you you've screwed up. Usually you'll get it for sneaking out of the house, getting caught drinking, joining a group of religious extremists to overthrow a school board election, smoking the devil's lettuce, setting fire to the front lawn. The one that tells you she's not mad as she is disappointed. But what if you're getting that look not because you put guinea pigs in the washing machine? They were smelly, and that's where smelly things were supposed to go, sue me. But you're getting that look from across a courtroom because you're testifying against her for several murders and an attempted murder. Your attempted murder. In 1985, 17-year-old Stacy Castor met Michael Wallace. According to their friends and family, they were instantly in love. And within 3 years, they were married, expecting the birth of a baby girl, Ashley. And then 3 years after, they welcomed a second daughter, Bree. Michael was a doting father, loving, caring, and hands-on. Not that kind. Michael was just a legitimately good father. He lived for his girls, and developed a special bond with Bree. Stacy, worrying that it could be seen as favoritism, attempted to counter by becoming besties with Ashley. While Michael and Bree would go on errands, Stacy and Ashley would watch movies, make cookies, summon demons from the depths of hell, or do their hair, normal girl activities. They weren't poor, but weren't rich by any means either. Think early season Roseanne. By 1999, Michael was becoming increasingly unwell. He'd feel fluish, constantly tired, and looking puffy and swollen. He'd become unsteady at times, and by the holidays, his family recalls that it had reached a concerning state. One afternoon in early 2000, Ashley came home from school and saw her dad asleep on the couch. She turned on the TV, and he responded with a groan and lifting his arm weakly. She told him she was going to go pick up Bree and walk her home from school, but Michael didn't respond. As Ashley and Bree returned home, their mother was arriving home from work. They followed her as she opened the door to a sight that would change Ashley and Bree forever. Looking past her mother, Ashley saw her dad was still in the exact same position she'd left him in. His skin had developed a blue tint, and he wasn't breathing. When paramedics arrived, it was already too late, determining it to be a fatal heart attack. The funeral was a somber affair, as Michael's daughters sobbed, saying goodbye to their daddy. Others noticed something odd, however, during all of it. Finding Michael, dealing with the investigation, and even lowering his casket into the ground, Stacy never cried. Shortly after, Stacy began taking the girls on trips and vacations. She had work done to the house to renovate and brighten things up. She had received a sizable sum from Michael's life insurance. A few years went by, and the girls began to heal. In the meantime, Stacy happened to meet David Castor at a line dancing event. David was a divorced father and entrepreneur in the HVAC industry. They hit it off and began seeing each other regularly, becoming very close. Within just a couple of years, they were married. The ceremony was strange, however. It was small and intimate, but none of David's family attended. David, Bree, and Ashley had a hard time overcoming the burdens of a new family dynamic. David already had children from his previous marriage, and the girls already had a father. Slowly over time, David and the girls did start growing attached. And by the time of Ashley's graduation, David was beaming. However, as David grew closer to the girls, it seemed the relationship between him and Stacy began to become turbulent. David and Stacy had begun arguing more and more. Accusations of infidelity were thrown at each other. David's son from a previous marriage was cut off due to his own troubles, and Ashley and Bree were becoming worried about the ever-increasing rocky nature of the relationship after bonding with him.
Communication, how can I help you?
My name is Stacy Castor, and my husband has locked himself in our bedroom for the last day. I'm just getting a little concerned because I haven't talked to him since 5 o'clock in the morning on Sunday when he locked me out of the bedroom.
In August of 2005, Stacy called 911 after a night of arguments left David to lock himself in the bedroom and wasn't responding the following morning.
Has he ever mentioned hurting himself or harming himself or?
Friday night when we were arguing, he told me to get out, take my kids and get out. I could leave, and then 5 minutes later he said if I left he would make me sorry. I would be sorry if I ever left him.
First responders on the scene forced their way into the bedroom to find David lying nude and unresponsive across the bed. He was immediately rushed to the hospital and put into intensive care. On the table were 2 short crystal glasses. One had trace remains of watered-down bourbon, and the other was a neon green liquid. Police began looking around and taking Stacy's statement. She told investigators that David and her had been fighting all day. Then he went into the bedroom with a bottle of liquor and locked the door. Stacy said she had hoped to resolve things in the morning, so she slept on the couch and had tried entering the room when she woke up. The story was believable enough, but her demeanor seemed cold and detached. While she spoke with the police, other officers were documenting the scene. They found the liquor and glasses, and found the green liquid was antifreeze. They found the jug half disposed under the bed, and saw a green dribble on the sheets. Antifreeze is an engine coolant, primarily composed of ethylene glycol. Ethylene glycol is a central nervous system depressant that can cause damage to the organs, including the brain, because of the crystallization effect it has in the bloodstream, shredding organ tissue and preventing filtration in the liver and kidneys. It was a detective in the kitchen, however, that noticed something that didn't quite line up to Stacy's story. A turkey baster on top of the garbage in the can that contained trace amounts of antifreeze. She had said that he had locked himself in the bedroom before he started drinking, so how did he use the baster? Was he a wizard? Did he have X-Men powers like Nightcrawler? David's initial autopsy reported that he had died by suicide, specifically by self-administered ethylene glycol poisoning. But police suspected that Stacy had force-fed David after he had become too physically incapacitated to resist. Another odd and troubling detail was Stacy had David laid next to Michael in his final resting spot. She claimed that it was a matter of convenience for her to visit her departed husbands. But because of the red flags and the other inconsistencies in her stories, and one thing they noticed is, despite her outward appearance of devotion and love to her late husbands, she never once visited the graves. With the situation raising so many red flags for detectives, and the unconventional nature of David's death, a warrant was issued to Paullin and Ed Gein to dig up the body of her dead husbands. They weren't looking at David, however. They were exhuming Michael Wallace. While all of this was happening, Stacy had become extremely close with her daughters, convincing them that police had ill intentions, targeting her for an unfair investigation. That David loved antifreeze, that it was always his dream to drink that delicious neon green liquid. He'd spent years searching for an alternative when they discontinued High-C Ecto Cooler, and he yearned for the delectable yet untouchable drink. Okay, I made most of that up, but it goes to show the level of manipulation she was exhibiting over her daughters. When authorities contacted Ashley, who by now was attending college, she immediately contacted her mother. Stacy tried to convince Ashley to come home. Ashley visited soon after, and her mom, whom she considered to be her best friend, knew how much Ashley had been through, and suggested that they get hammered to let off some steam. Ashley drank heavily with Stacy and woke up feeling lethargic and slightly ill. Unaccustomed to hangovers, she wrote it off as such. The next evening, Stacy told Ashley that this time they should get completely bombed. Ashley recalls the drinks were not very good. There was a bitterness about it, but she drank not to disappoint Stacy.
My daughter, I believe, has taken some pills.
Is that her?
Oh, she's still
Bree found Ashley asleep and grew immediately concerned when Ashley had shallow breaths and barely responsive. She was rushed to the hospital and immediately put into intensive care.
What?
No. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Oh my god, this is not happening.
Stacy had found a note from Ashley, who by now had been found to be overdosing on painkillers and sleeping pills. The note claimed responsibility, saying she had tried to protect her mom from abusive husbands. At this point, the sympathy, the suspicion, and patience had run out. Ashley, against all odds, woke up. An investigator immediately started asking Ashley her role in the matter, what she had taken, and what she remembered. Ashley was confused, waking up in a hospital bed with a detective asking her about a suicide note, and it finally came together. Mom tried to kill me. With the investigation already staring at Stacy, she was picked up for another round of interrogations. The evidence was overwhelming, but Stacy continued to blame Ashley. By this point, however, authorities had two new pieces of evidence to discredit Stacy's story. Stacy had told investigators that David had been drinking heavily the night he locked himself in the bedroom. Autopsy reports showed no alcohol in his system. More damning, however, is Michael Wallace's exhumed body had the telltale signs of ethylene glycol poisoning as well. Stacy was charged with the murder of Michael Wallace, David Castor, and the attempted murder of Ashley Wallace. Stacy's defense pointed to the letter that had been supposedly written by Ashley, trying to pin the crimes on her, who would have only been a child at the time of her father's death. The motivation, as presented by the DA, was wealth. It was discovered that a friend of Stacy's had helped forge the will to cut out David's son, whom had believed that all this time his father had either hated or not cared for him. After being written out of the will, Ashley was forced to testify against her mother, whom she had considered for the longest time her best friend, the mother who tried to kill her and pin the blame her own father's murder for. After a long and complicated trial, the jury came back with a guilty verdict. Stacy was sentenced to life sentences for the murder of David Castor, Michael Wallace, and an additional life sentence for the attempted murder on her own daughter. Stacy Castor died a few years later of natural causes in prison, maintaining her innocence until the very end. Most types of killers are identity neutral. Race, religion, sex tends not to be a factor. The one standout from this trend is that of the Black Widow, who will use sex and romance to lure in a victim and ultimately dispose of them, like the spider they're named after. The most common reason for this is security, financial wealth, assets they'll convince their victim to sign over, or forge documents listing themselves as the beneficiary. It's a niche in the serial killer landscape, but nonetheless deadly. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Ring that bell for notifications. And until next time, toodaloo.